Hey, everybody, welcome to Couch Dimension, our video games podcast where a lawyer, software engineer, and gamer come together in an ethereal world of living room furniture to talk about video games and gaming news. I'm Tiny Big Dude, and I'm putting together a lawsuit to force Sega to bring back the Chow Garden. Joined, as always, by my co-hosts. Fellas, introduce yourselves.
I'm Captain, and I'm still trying to get Bobby Kotick to drink 5 Panera Bread lemonades back to back. Haven't succeeded yet.
And I'm Red, and I beat Elden Ring today.
Woo! Nice job, Red.
Thank you.
How long did it take you?
Till today, I haven't counted.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess Steam doesn't really keep your hours like bifurcated through main game and DLC. That would be nice if they would
be
do
neat.
that. I'm writing to Steam right now, and I'm telling them about my great idea.
So add it to your Chow Garden lawsuit.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to bring them all at once to the Gamers Court, the court for gamers. If you don't know about it, it's because you're not gamer enough. But that's enough bullshitting. We've got a great show for you today. We got a lot of fresh news to sift through. First up is going to be me. I have today's first story for you, and that is that Xbox Live has gone down. Try not to panic. So this is a piece of breaking news that honestly might be moot by now. I haven't checked since I originally wrote this. And I want to bring it up, though, because of what it kind of brings to the surface on the whole, rather than it by itself. Like, gaming services go down all the time, and that's not really worth talking about, but I think that there is something here worth talking about. And according to Michael Kripe at IGN, Xbox Live's gaming service went down at about 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and as of when I wrote this at about 5 p.m. Eastern Time, the service was still unavailable. So at the very least, a 3-hour outage, which is a pretty big deal when it comes to, a game service as big as Microsoft's. So the service is still unplayable to my knowledge, and players are unable to log into their Microsoft accounts. So with huge companies like Microsoft standing as gatekeepers to our game libraries, do you guys think that we have risked too much in the digital age? I mean, if this had been, back in the day, it wouldn't matter what's going on at Microsoft. Like, I have games on disk, and their servers being shitty might affect my ability to play online, but it wouldn't affect my ability to play. I mean, hell, when Steam goes down, at least you can still access the offline mode. But, this problem of these massive companies standing in the way of us playing our games. What happens if a hacker group gets into Microsoft's systems? And what if the DDoS attacks from Lizard Squad in 2014 were just a temporary glimpse of what a more competent and organized group could accomplish? Now, Captain, you're the software engineer, so tell me, am I onto something, or am I baselessly fear-mongering?
I kind of want to lean. Unfortunately, it could be fear-mongering.
Be afraid.
Because technically, the workaround for this was if you, Microsoft and Sony both have the option to make your console your home console. And if it is any games that you own on that console, at least it works, I believe, like Steam's offline mode, where like after so long you might need to log in, maybe. But I do know that at least for a comfortable amount of time, you won't need to log in just to play your digital games.
Now, I will say for me, for my PC, because I tried it out myself, I could not get the app to launch.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's much worse.
That is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a solve for anyone with Game Pass on PC. That is significantly worse. So that fixes for console players.
Made in Timeland says, I'm not against physical media. I love it, but I think digital media should always be an option as an environmentalist. I agree with you, Made in Timeland. I just think the digital media comes with certain DRM problems, and that's really kind of what's at stake there, right? Because even if you have, the Xbox that can still take discs, if you put a disc into it right now, I think you might still be fucked.
Yeah. Sometimes they have to validate some things. Me personally, I hate lugging around or having to shuffle through discs, so I'd rather just have everything like on the system.
I agree. I like the convenience of it. I just feel like it gives them more opportunity to put DRM in place. I feel like it was harder to put DRM when media was physical. But I just think, like, what if someone were to get into their servers and really do some damage, right? Like, what's the worst case scenario? What could that look like? Could they potentially, wipe our game libraries, our saves, etc.? Or is that just like, I'm going, really overboard with that?
I don't know. I need to know more about how Microsoft does things. I will say it's not saying anything like that could happen, but I will say with the examples given earlier, most of what we see are DDoS attacks. So,
Right.
and usually it's not to say it can never happen, but people are usually less invested in fucking up like company records and all of that, and more focused on things that'll make them money. Usually ransoming. Or
Yeah.
if they're getting in for data, they're usually ransoming something. Because if you just send the company under, then you don't really get the money. So.
Oh yeah.
Kind of.
No, I can definitely see, like, I wouldn't say it's a completely baseless. It's not a baseless thing to be concerned about.
Well, I wouldn't say it's based. But that is really that whole story. I'm just sitting here thinking of when the digital apocalypse will happen, and do I have enough Vienna sausages and copies of Sonic Adventure 2 on a GameCube to make it through? But that's enough of that. Captain, tell us another really fun, great story for today.
Oh yeah, sure. You're talking about the digital apocalypse, and concerns over games, your access to games, and so that works well with my story. We'll roll right in. So, bad news on the front of game preservation. Sorry, Tiny, I did clap my hands. I talk with my hands. Sorry for bad audio for anyone listening. Anyways, bad news on the front of game preservation. Forza Horizon 4 will be delisted on online platforms as of December 15th. It's going to be delisted as a result of licensing agreements expiring. And it was released in September 2018, which means, like, as of now, it's almost... by the time it's delisted, it'll have only been 6 years old. Just a bummer. I really loved the game. I put a decent amount of time in, not as there are a million games, so it's not like I could have put more time in, but it's a really, really solid game. Did either of you ever play it?
Yeah, I really love it. And Michael Q says, luckily I can go download it to my Xbox real quick.
I didn't get to play Forza Horizon 4. I played whatever the most recent one to come to Game Pass was.
4 takes place in a lawless wasteland, actually. It's a departure from the series. It's called England? Anyways.
Oh, I thought 4 was the Australian one.
No.
I thought that's where you were going with a lawless wasteland.
No, that also will work, though.
No, I really do like that you're continuing to push this narrative that you have a beef with the UK.
Absolutely. Australia, I believe, was 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then England was 4, which has seasons attached, which is really neat. And I think they might have kept the seasons for 5, but you can change to racing in the fall if you want, and these will affect like weather conditions and stuff. And then the newest one, 5, or the most recent Horizon was in Mexico, which is really nice. Sorry, getting lost in talking about the series. I'll just say I enjoy the games, and that one is a really, really, really good racing game. So I will say, if you're interested in trying it, good news is it's not gone yet. You can get it on discount right now. Until the 11th, it's 80% off on Steam. And Microsoft does intend to continue having sales on it before it's delisted. So if you miss it now, you'll get a chance, as long as you get before December 15th. Moreover, good news, if you were playing it on Game Pass and bought DLC, then you'll get a free code for the base game. Because, you bought that DLC expecting you would just be able to play through Game Pass. So that is actually really nice. That said, the story's still a bummer for me. Like, I'm frustrated because it just shouldn't have happened. Microsoft didn't specify if the license were for music or car brands. I'm leaning towards car brands just because music's been removed from other games before, but I will add a caveat that there are events and things in the game where music is a little tied to the event, so it could be possible that it's that. But I'm leaning towards more likely it's some kind of car brand where they would have to. It's probably not just like one model of car, it's probably several, and to remodel them all is too much work. To remove them from the game would break it, or it would decimate some people's garages. So instead, we'll delist it. Personally, not a big car guy, so if it were cars, I would be more than happy with generic versions being put in. I cannot speak necessarily for people who are super into cars, but I would be somewhat willing to bet that they would also prefer to still have the game available for sale. Now, just to be clear, the reason I was talking about sales for it earlier, if you own the game, you can still download it. They're not taking it down from the servers or anything. If you own it, you can still re-download. Because we have had cases before of, oh no, delisting is more than just taking it off the store. It is, if you own it, you can't re-download, which is way worse. So it sucks. And honestly, companies should plan in advance better for this sort of thing. I don't know how this was allowed to happen. If anything, they need to plan in advance for when these licenses expire, that they can sub out that content or remove it easier. Because this isn't the only game where licenses have expired. There are songs that were removed from San Andreas because the license expired. So
yeah, and I get taking music out of your game, but how funny would it be if they just replaced all the car models with the generic ones from GTA?
I'd play that. You know what? No. I got a better one for you. That Forza Horizon 4 had the Lego DLC. Just put a Lego version in. Just replace all those cars with Lego cars.
Hey, they did the Hot Wheels crossover. Just have them be Hot Wheels.
That would also be strong.
I can understand the music licenses running out. A license to the likeness of cars running out feels strange.
Oh, it's just like, nowadays you have to license gun models in
I was about to say,
that's why all the Call of Duty gun names changed at a certain point in the series, because they didn't want to pay like Smith & Wesson and all the other arms manufacturers for the rights.
You know what? That was the right move.
Yeah. Don't give those people any more money, definitely.
Yeah, I'd hate for playing an actual gun game to support gun violence.
But let me go ahead and toss it over to Red.
Let's talk about one part of Bandai Namco. Bandai Namco Online is a branch of normal Bandai Namco, and it's an important distinction. They reported a net loss of over $51 million for the previous fiscal year that ended in March, making it insolvent. And what does insolvency mean, you ask? Well, you cannot pay your debts, but you haven't declared bankruptcy yet, is the gist of it. Of note to Western audiences is they only released Gundam Evolution, which was, from my experience, a decently well-made hero shooter set in the Gundam universe. They also released several games that only released in Japan, with the most notable being Blue Protocol, which was to be published by Amazon and other regions outside Japan, alongside the Japanese release, which was in June 2023. They have since announced that it comes out sometime in 24 this year, but we have yet to get a real release date. The issue with Bandai Namco Online is they don't make money, obviously, and they cost a lot of money by starting to create games and canceling them, kicking off projects, and ripping the budget out. Being in the red is not new for this branch. Previous year, they lost over $24 million, about half of what this report shows. A graph published by GameBiz shows that historically they have either made some 20 to 40 billion yen in profit, but the past 2 years have been rough for the group. Luckily, they got Daddy Bamco printing plastic models, making a bunch of money.
Yeah, I wonder if they provide any other services to the larger Bandai Namco brand. Because, like, it really does seem like they're ripe for the shutting down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, do you maybe do like networking for other games or something? Is there another responsibility here that we're not seeing? Because like that's not good.
That's really not good.
Yeah, this is... Look, I don't want anyone to lose their jobs. Let me clarify that first, but this is a rare instance lately for us of like, we keep covering stories where it's why did the studio get canned? They made all these good games. They made all this money, and now...
Oh, this is why, huh? But speaking of games, I want to pivot and talk about Blue Protocol for a minute. And I've been watching it, seeing if it's actually going to come out, and I've basically given up on it. But to give listeners an idea of what kind of game it is, it's an anime, cel-shaded action MMORPG, and on the surface, it looks really good. The downside, as the Japanese players unfortunately discovered, were the paid cosmetics with no in-game earnable cool cosmetics and a lack of content. The Anthem problem. It also included a dreaded gacha mechanic, which we should even what we even call gacha mechanic these days. It's a money sink.
I think the Anthem problem was actually being a bad game. But that is also just...
I totally see what you're saying. Like, people...
I just want to attack Anthem for a second.
Yeah, he just wants to attack Anthem in front of me.
But people want to, you know...
You're their only shooter.
When you fully optimize a game for microtransactions instead of fun, then, like, even though you have created the fastest hypothetical path to money, the money will not appear.
Yeah. Speaking of more transactions, there's a battle pass with free and paid tracks, earning in-game resources, and very few of the premium currency. The reason why this game did so poorly and looks like a money sink, well, the reasons why this game is doing poorly and looks like a money sink is upsetting to me, because imagine if hit MMO Final Fantasy XIV was fun. Rolling out of attacks.
No.
That's fired. That's fired.
His views do not support, or this podcast, his views do not reflect the opinions of the rest of the podcast. Even if I haven't gone into FF14, I am not taking that shot. I am not on board with that. Ooh.
But just imagine you're playing with your very large raid group. You're rolling out of attacks. You have actual attack combos. You don't just look at your keyboard and mash Y to U to I to P to S to D to do your combo string of skills or whatever. Large, cool raid monsters, going with your friends into dungeons and being active, not just clicking to move somewhere. It's hard to say. I don't mean to offend people who love Final Fantasy 14 after what I just said, but I do understand
it. You didn't just go after
better.
Final Fantasy. You went after most MMOs.
Yeah, most MMOs
Red
are
has
not
declared
fun.
war on MMOs.
I sure hope we don't have a fan of World of Warcraft in chat.
I do understand that Final Fantasy 14 gets better after the base game in regards to interesting story and fun mechanics, but I cannot make it through the release campaign. It is so boring. Now that I finished the rant, it seems obvious that after 2 years in a row of losses, that's more than the total they've earned in the past 10 years. Their daddy company, Bandai Namco Holdings, will have to determine if they stick around. Bandai Namco Holdings actually had their highest net sales last fiscal year, mostly due to plastic models and other collectibles from their various IPs. Captain, are there any games that have had your interest but release as poorly as Blue Protocol?
As poorly as Blue Protocol? I don't know, I'm thinking Red Protocol is pretty weak right now. Got his ass!
Got him.
I don't know. Destiny released in a pretty fucked up state, but even then I don't know if it's comparable to this.
Curse of Osiris was actually like the worst the game ever was, and the game was really closer than any other time in life to shutting down.
Curse, okay, quick thing, because I don't want to dig in too deep. Curse was rough story-wise, but it did actually have some additional content that was decent, like the raid stuff. But then again, the base game was also... Base Destiny 2 didn't have weapon rolls. Yeah, that might have been the worst state.
Yeah, well, I'm
still
speaking
more
from
content than Destiny 1.
I'm speaking from like a player count perspective.
Yeah.
It was the lowest the game was ever.
That makes sense. But yeah, Destiny 1. But Destiny 1 had like, it was obvious from the outset it had solid bones. That's why anyone, myself included, stuck with it to see it through to Taken King, where, famously the game became good. But like, there were, since the basic gameplay was satisfying, it worked out. I don't know, I can't speak for Blue Protocol if it's going to be able to do that. Yeah. What about you, Tiny?
As far as, I got one, No Man's Sky. That's one that I got me hyped and then released, and I was like, at first it was the copium, and then after like maybe 3 days, I was like, nope, gotta admit it. This one's bad.
Yeah. Even more rare is the turnaround too.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one that for sure turned around like crazy. Like No Man's Sky is, I haven't put a lot of hours into it recently, but I acknowledge now that it is an objectively good video game.
Don't worry, I have put in time recently. It's a pretty good video game.
Well, I'd like to move on now if you guys are done with thoughts on that one.
Sure.
And let's talk about something good. Let's talk about unions. That's right, fellas. It's time to get out your hammers and sickles because we're for the worker. But yeah, so this is another story on the labor front of video games, but this one isn't depressing like all the layoff news.
I was about to say, this is a feel-good story. We support
this is actually a good story. And normally I say that ironically, but this time I mean it literally. Taylor Lyles at IGN reports that Bethesda Games' Montreal studio, or BGS for short, is unionizing, following in the footsteps of 300 QA workers that unionized at ZeniMax in late 2022. For those unfamiliar with why this is a good thing, game development is a notoriously difficult job, with tight deadlines, compulsory overtime, and constant pressure to make blockbuster sales. Crunch is the industry term for working around the clock to push out a game in time for its release. It is brutal and the burnout rates are high. Captain, you've worked in some high-pressure software development environments. Do you wish you would have had a union?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Easy.
I definitely, every job I've ever worked where that was like, where I wasn't like a contract employee, I have had thoughts of like, do I want to try to initiate? But no, I don't, because the company's
It's putting your ass on the line.
Yeah.
I actually went to college with one of the people responsible for unionizing the first Starbucks in the US that actually kicked this whole thing off. And she was awesome, but that was kind of what she did, is like she got hired at Starbucks with the express intent of like, I don't give a shit if I lose my job. I'm gonna bring a union to the people. And it's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
But Michael Q says because they're in Montreal, now they will get paid in more maple syrup. Made in
Shots
Timeland,
fired at other chat members.
Yes, Made in Timeland, the resident Canadian. Previously I said in chat that you should burn red at the stake, but those pyres are building up. So for those wondering how unions result in better working conditions, let me briefly acquaint you with the concept of collective bargaining. Let's say your boss comes to you and tells you that you have to work a 16-hour day. Let's also assume that your salary and you don't receive any compensation for all this overtime. If you tell your boss no, then you will likely face retribution, if not firing for standing up for your work-life boundaries. However, if the entire office says no, then there isn't much your boss can do about it, because after all, firing everyone would set the project and company back way further than firing one individual. So your boss is then forced to negotiate with the union. And yeah, maybe you do end up working longer hours, but you get paid for it. And this is just one illustrative example. Unions help employees in myriad ways, including advocating for better pay and benefits. Red, while not a member of a union yourself, you've worked with unions before. What's your experience been when it comes to treatment of union versus non-union employees?
So my experience comes from a blue collar setting, working outside in the heat and the cold, physical labor. And the consequences of not being in a union is you do it when those situations are not ideal or could be dangerous. And then the treatment of a person who is in the union in those situations gets to quote the union and say, take it up with the union when they're not working because it's too hot to work. And oh my God, it's so unfair.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is, and unions typically represent blue collar fields. White collar unions are not necessarily new, but I think that a lot of people are paying more attention to them now. And yeah, I mean, that's my understanding generally, is that they make the workplace safer for the people that are a part of it. That sucks that the company is like, well, let's just throw the non-union people at the 110-degree heat. Surely they won't die of heat stroke.
No, that was why union was maintenance and non-union was construction. You were basically contracted out and you did the brand new construction work, which is the more tedious, aggravating, and dangerous of the work.
Wow. So, for those of you that remain unconvinced, let me address the common arguments against unions. Union opponents will often say that unions don't really have the best interest of workers at heart, and are instead money-hungry entities that seek to exploit the tension between workers and their bosses, even going so far as instigating strife and, quote, stirring the pot to create unrest among workers. This stereotype was carefully crafted by anti-union advocates who cherry-picked examples of union corruption from the 1930s and wove a broader narrative around it. Through the use of various media apparatuses and disinformation campaigns, they convinced many Americans that unions are ontologically evil. And as cool as Tommy guns were, the mob no longer plays a major role in unions, at least not in North America. And the weakening of unions is also a key strategy for neoliberal reform, which I talked about a couple of episodes ago and will not fully get into here. But that's because financial markets want to treat labor as a commodity and not as the core livelihood of the general population. So yeah, yay. I mean, yay for real for the Montreal people. But the fact that unions have declined in this country is really a damn shame.
Yeah, unions are a lot like vaccines made in Timeland. They do work best for people that don't believe in them.
But yeah, I mean, it really does go against your own self-interest to be anti-union, especially in blue-collar fields like Red was talking about earlier, where they can actively make you safer. But we're talking about white-collar work. It's a little bit different. And that's where this kind of attitude towards unions comes out that I think needs correcting and that people need to readjust their thinking on. So there's this notion that if you're working in the games industry, you are living your dream and you should count yourself lucky to be offered the opportunity to work 16-hour days because game dev is such a sought-after position. This bullshit is often parroted in relation to Hollywood unions as well, and I would like to dispel it by saying that labor is labor. It doesn't matter if it is labor that you enjoy, you deserve to be compensated fairly for it and treated like a human being. So, congratulations to BGS for knowing your worth and standing up for yourselves. I hope that the new union makes your lives better and empowers you to make great games.
Absolutely. Crunch has always been like the biggest thing. And hopefully with a union, you can very like easily set up, hey, this game cannot come out this year because it is dookie doo-doo.
Yes. I really do hope that like labor having more of a say is going to improve quality as well. And I think it will because, there's that meme that goes around and I 100% agree with it. And it says, I want games that look worse and take longer to make with happier employees or something to that effect. I'm butchering it, I'm sure. But yeah. I really do believe that. Like, do we really need graphics at the level that graphics are at? I would much rather those people get to go home to their families. Like, I get the idea,
I don't need to see Spider-Man's dick vein through the suit.
Exactly.
I do.
Yeah, okay, let's
That's
not
what
go
monitors
too
are
far
for.
here, let's dial it back a little bit. Okay, the dick vein's on the line, then maybe I'm going to change my stance.
I'm sorry, Tucker. I'm sorry, Mr. Carls.
I forgot the dick vein in the Snickers was a real thing.
I don't know if it was. I think it might have just been a meme.
Okay. I mean, shit, strong. At the point that we're talking about green M&Ms, who fucking knows?
I think green M&Ms may have been real.
Oh, yes, that one was very, very much actually real. But enough of the culture war. You can find that on our new podcast, Culture War Dimension. But yeah, Red, you've got another story for us about Nintendo that follows up some previous work that we've done. How about you tell us about it?
Yeah. So Nintendo is suing some more people. Joel Loins over at Dextro covered a new Nintendo lawsuit where Nintendo has targeted the modders and creators of the MIG Switch. For those who do not know, a MIG Switch is basically a flash cart from the Nintendo Switch. This hardware was only recently perfected to the point of mass marketing. Essentially, it's a Switch game cart with a micro SD card slot, where you can put on near any number of games and play them by shuffling through what game is loaded or flashed to the cart at the time by ejecting and putting it back in. Nintendo has also targeted LiberiaShop, a piracy source for the Switch that would allow you to download pirated games from other unofficial shops. Noble listeners may recall that we covered when Nintendo made the Yuzu devs fold. I suspect that the MIG Switch creators may go just as fast since the suit is USA based. The issue and failure on the MIG Switch guys was that they were already loading the MIG Switch up with games when they shipped them out.
Oh God!
It is something even the most layman in the Nintendo modding and hacking scene would know is a no-no.
Hank, you can't put the game on the console when it ships, Hank.
It should have been obvious. I can't believe we're always having this discussion. I suppose
they earned this one, right?
Yeah. I suppose they could have figured that since the retro handhelds you can get off Amazon or Temu come preloaded, they could do it too. But the important thing to note is those devices are near exclusively built and shipped out of China, where they notoriously do not care about copyright laws. And it may even seem that Modded Hardware, the MIG Switch creator, has already taken some kind of deal with Nintendo, as the MIG Switch website now shares the same DNS as the Yuzu website Nintendo took possession of a while ago. It looks like the individual behind LiberiaShop has taken to scorching the internet of their presence, however. Tiny, could you refresh us on the consequences the Yuzu team faces as part of their deal with Nintendo?
Yes. So Yuzu, not only, I mean, they got nuked from orbit, right? Like, they were facing so many financial penalties. And rather than do that, they took a deal that said, we won't make this anymore. Not only will we not make this anymore, Nintendo, you now have our website. You now have the rights to the Yuzu product name. Please don't kill me. Please, God, don't kill me. And so that was kind of the deal that they ended up getting, and it's the deal that I think these guys are going to end up with as well. You know, piracy things just don't know how to be subtle, right? LiberiaShop, really? Because like I might be mistaken here, but I think that Liberia is like a hub of global piracy, like the boat kind. So you know, really subtle naming convention. But yeah, you can't do. I love piracy. I love stealing, and I love people that make that possible. But guys, you gotta be smart. This is so stupid to ship the product with the games already on it. I mean, it almost makes me wonder if some of these things are, and I would have to look at the companies to see, right? Like, did Modded Hardware know that this was going to happen? Did they just sell as many MIG switches as they could before they dump the whole thing and run away? Because that's also possible.
They did a very poor job of it.
Yeah.
They got sued.
Well, they got sued, but right, suing someone is one thing, finding them is another. And that kind of depends on where, like, who all is going to be on the hook for this thing, which I wouldn't know without looking at the legal filings.
Part of the thing is, if you want to do some piracy, first off, you gotta be in, or if you want to make money on it, you gotta work a lot harder. Otherwise, you need to be in it for the love of the game, because the moment you start selling shit, you open yourself up for a lot of liability. But also, don't target. You know why those other consoles work where they prepackage them with games? Because they're not really cutting into Nintendo's profits so much. The moment you go after the current console and start cutting into the money that's coming in now, you're way bigger of a target. Sometimes you gotta wait a generation. Maybe two.
It may be worth noting that they weren't putting modern games on it. They were putting emulated games on it. They were putting like older games on it, like NES, SNES, GBA games, which was, I think, still a bad idea, a very bad idea.
No, they still shouldn't.
Because it's just going to show, hey, Nintendo, we could have put Breath of the Wild on here, but we didn't.
Well, it's also you're still interacting with the big moneymaker right now. It's just going to put you on the radar harder.
Yeah,
no one really care. Like, I don't think, like, it's not that Nintendo won't shut some things down. It's just that sometimes it's not worth it. Or it doesn't seem like it. There are so many what are they called? Raspberry Pi consoles out there. Like, my stepdad has one. Like, people sell those things, load them up with games, and no one really goes after them too hard. It's just like, what, you're gonna go after like a single dude who's making these things and not really. Yeah, I get why.
Yeah, it's a single dude making it, selling it on eBay, and it's an old product that you can barely move yourself.
Yeah,
you know,
so like, who cares? But with that, it's definitely a bigger problem, or something like that that's easier to move. Once again, interacting with the current hardware. Yeah, you make yourself a much bigger target, and. I always feel conflicted with these stories because, like, I'm never a big fan of big corporations, but I am sometimes, like, baffled by, why'd you do it like this? There is the feeling of, you are asking for trouble on this one.
Yeah, there's always a way to do things smart and to do things stupid, and these people didn't exactly make the smart choices. I would like to acknowledge Michael Q did correct me in chat. Somalia was the country I was thinking of. However, after a cursory Google, I don't know if Liberian pirates are a thing, but there's a lot of piracy in Liberia, apparently. But I didn't know that. And so my smugness towards LiberiaShop was unfounded. I apologize for being smug in your naming convention. I will continue to be smug in your attempt to flaunt copyright law.
Made in Thailand. You can still buy a Raspberry Pi online, put some whipped cream on it, bite right in.
It's still a thing you can do. It may not be good.
Well, you boys up for some more lawsuit news?
Hell yeah! Let's hear more law.
When the target deserves it, yes.
Well, and in this case, they absolutely do. This is another feel-good story for the couch dimension. And that's because the United States government is suing Adobe.
Hell yeah.
That's my onomatopoeic attempt at an air horn. I hope that came across. And not just me making strange noises. But it's once again time to talk about my favorite federal employee. That's right, Lena Khan, chairwoman of the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. We've talked about her a little bit before. She's awesome, and she is at it again. And this time, she is suing Adobe for fucking us all over with their subscription model. According to Jonathan Stemple at Reuters, the FTC has filed a complaint in San Jose, California, which argues that Adobe misleads consumers by hiding fees within their subscription model. For example, the early termination fee, which will charge a user 50% of their remaining payments if they cancel their subscription in the first year. So say you sign up for Adobe and you use Photoshop or Premiere or whatever for a month and you decide you don't like it. Well, you're still on the hook for half the yearly cost of the software. Yeah. So that's bad. And thank God someone is trying to do something about it.
That is not good. Not good
Adobe's
at all.
been pushing it for a while. They will not quit doing just the dumbest or the most blatant like bullshit. So it's good to see someone finally smack them back down a little.
Yeah,
yes.
and like Adobe is and I'm going to talk about this a little bit in a minute, but they're like a pioneer of shitty practices, man. Like they really dig deep and they try to think of the most dog shit things they can do, and they make industry changing decisions in how terrible they are. And they make everyone else worse along with them. So let's get into the legal specifics of it. Everyone's favorite part of the show. Join me in the legal specifics corner. So there is nothing unlawful about having a shitty subscription model. This is true. But there is a reason that I use Canva for the podcast thumbnails and DaVinci Resolve for video editing. And under the 2010 Restore Online Shoppers Confidence Act, or ROSCA, it is unlawful to hide that information about your shitty subscription model from your consumers, which is what the FTC is arguing Adobe has done here. The items are technically in the terms and conditions, but they're only apparent if you're willing to dig through fine print and follow all the hyperlinks. And this is one of the areas where, like, I really love to see. We don't get a lot of wins in contract law, right? But this is one of them that, like, if you're going to have these shitty terms, they have to be front and center.
Absolutely.
What's the shittiest thing that that one of you has ever signed up for? Like, have you ever had a hard time canceling something?
I had a hard time unsubscribing from some email lists. Those are notoriously terrible. Yes,
those are hydras. You unsubscribe from one and 3 more appear.
I a while back started a free trial for Adobe's PDF editor, only to cancel it within the same day, and they make you jump through some hoops. But I want to say Orange YouTube also has some issues. So,
Maiden Timeline says gym memberships. Correct. So this is actually something else that the FTC is doing that I won't get super into here, but you just should know about this federal agency and how cool they are. In the States, they are trying to make it a rule that you have to have the same amount of steps between signing up for the thing and canceling the thing. Meaning that if it takes 1 click to sign up for a gym membership, it needs to take 1 click to unsign up for that gym membership. And I just really like that rule. But in taking Adobe to task, the FTC is asking the court for monetary civil penalties for each instance where Adobe has failed to comply with ROSCA and is seeking an injunction against Adobe that would prevent them from using these deceptive practices in the future. I know that Adobe isn't exactly a video game company, and I am therefore stretching the limits of what this show can handle, but they are a software developer, and their forced subscription model with no option of owning the software outright isn't something I would be surprised to see in gaming's future.
Also, it's okay. This is a load-bearing couch. It can take quite a bit.
Let's hope the FTC can rein this practice in by going after what is probably the worst offender when it comes to predatory digital license subscriptions.
I would hope it has a chilling effect, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, typically an enforcement action will, especially because they're asking for it for every instance where Adobe failed to comply. You know, it kind of depends on, and I'm not familiar enough with ROSCA to know how this is interpreted. If you interpret that as each product Adobe is marketed, you get probably a lot of money. If you interpret that as every time someone has signed up for Adobe, you get a really, really large amount of money.
I'm going to echo Michael Cuey in the chat. Miss buying a single instance of Microsoft products.
Yes. Yeah. We all miss it. We all want to just buy Photoshop.
Yeah.
And the fuckers won't let us.
I'm still happy to this day. When I was talking about it the other night, I don't know if they still offer it. I have a feeling they don't. But the Nexus Mods website, I about a decade ago paid a flat $50 fee for the premium membership for life, and I've gotten that value back.
That is awesome.
More. It is absolutely worth it.
I really like whenever I am looking for software to do things with, I always look. Humble Bundle usually has some okay stuff.
Humble Bundle has some decent stuff.
They'll let you just buy Mixcraft, which is an audio mixing tool outright. It's pretty good. It's probably not as good as, whatever Adobe has on offer, but you can still find some softwares out there that will let you just purchase them. And I encourage you to do that because Adobe sucks.
Yeah, no, Adobe's perhaps the worst that I'm aware of. It's a shit show.
Well, speaking of shit shows, Captain, I think you have some bad news to break.
Is that the transition you want?
That's the transition you're getting.
Okay, well, speaking of shit show, it's time to talk about one.
Oh, that's not what I meant. Not like this. Not like this.
I told you. Fellas, the dimension may be changing us in ways unforeseen. You see, in last week's episode, Tiny named Frostpunk as our game of the month for July, and then Frostpunk 2 was delayed. Moreover, when Prey was my game of the month, Arcane Austin was shut down. Some may call this coincidence, but I call it the Couch Dimension curse. I also want to say my next game of the month will be League of Legends. How do you two plan to wield this power?
Oh, God, I could finally take down Apex Legends and they would be forced to give me Titanfall 3.
Whoa. Hold on. You need to think about this. See, I'm putting a thing on the line where if the studio shuts down or something, I'm not losing anything. You might be monkeys pawing this. You don't know what negative repercussions they will face. And you might kill Respawn.
I'm just hoping I didn't give the guy behind Art Machine a bootstrap paradox, because he was already deadly sick before, and I'd hate to know that we made him deadly sick from the future to the past.
Oh, you absolutely did. No, you've thrown him into the grave.
Because my game of the week didn't have, or my game of the month didn't have a terrible outcome. He was already sick, which is not a great thing to be, by the way. I'm not trying, I am making light of it, but it is serious. I don't know if I have the power to cancel that you two share.
Yeah, that is the thing. It seems to have skipped one of the hosts.
As far as we know of.
We
don't know what's going on in his private life. He may have found out, oh no, I'm sorry, you have turbo heart disease now. It's our fault.
Jesus Christ. Do you guys think that it is unethical for us to make this show now that we're impacting reality like this?
I'm still reckoning with you. Michael Q did point out, you may have caused Titanfall 2 to get delisted.
Oh no!
But Respawn is not dead.
Look,
you need to think your wishes through. I think we can use this for good. We just have to. We're just gonna have to get. I think part of what makes it work is that we had to actually commit to our side of the deal. So we have to play through the game.
We just have to play bad games.
We're gonna have to play some shit games, boys. Maybe we need to do Sonic Adventure 2 just to let Sonic Team finally go
send
free.
Those fuckers a message.
Set them free.
Well, I would like to, we talked about games that are dog shit. I would like to talk about some games that are not dog shit and talk a little bit about what we've been playing. I don't mind going first if you boys are up for it.
Go for it.
I've been playing an indie game that is absolutely phenomenal. I encourage everyone to check this out. It's called Shadows of Doubt. If you ever wanted Clue to be more immersive, this is the game for you. Shadows of Doubt is a voxel-based, procedurally generated crime simulator, or more accurate, detective simulator. In the game, you will be faced with murders. You'll need to investigate the crime scene, find clues, and then piece together who might have done it. But the cool thing is, all of the NPCs are randomly generated. They all have randomly generated connections with one another. And so based on the clues that you get, this can be either pretty straightforward, or it can be a very difficult job that will have you banging your head against the table like a real grizzled detective. I love it. I picked it up this weekend. I've been playing it non-stop. Just to give you guys like an idea of how the gameplay works. So take this example. I walk in, someone has been murdered. In my previous cases, I've always been able to find fingerprints that don't match the victim or their partner. In this case, I found none. So I start digging through their emails. I find out that the husband has been cheating. So naturally, I assume that the husband's side piece might be the murderer. I spend a significant amount of time finding this woman. I finally find her. I tell her she's under arrest. She pulls a gun on me and starts shooting at me. And then I get an alert at the top of my screen. Another murder has been committed. I was wrong.
Man, what a classic detective movie twist.
Right. Like it gives you so many of those cool moments that make you really feel like you're existing in this simulation. And I just really love it a lot. There's some jank there for sure, but it's jank that's worth sitting through. The only complaint I have about the game is that there aren't like a lot of great dialogue options for interrogating civilians. Like if a guy's wife dies and you talk to him and you say, "Hey, anything weird going on?" He'll be like, "Nah."
That sounds like a good fun time. I want to try it out. I hope they don't invent procedural murders in real life.
Oh my god. I don't know why it took me a second to process your sentence. Walk in, someone has been murdered. I turn on the game. Damn, Michael. What a terrible world to live in.
What have you been up to, Red?
So a few weeks ago, I set up remote play on my Steam Deck, and it was okay for the handheld situation, but docking it was a nightmare. I used Helldivers 2 to kind of test the jank, and after about an hour, 2 hours of messing with it, I got it to work. But so I have a 4090 in my PC and a Steam Deck in the living room. I have Ethernet wired connections ran between all the rooms in my house. So I have a wired connection all the way through. After linking the Steam Deck and my PC, it streamed fairly well handheld. I docked the Steam Deck and problems arose. Suddenly, HDR was on and blowing out the colors on the TV whenever I streamed. There was a very noticeable amount of lag that I didn't experience in handheld. I had to play with settings for a while to get it working in an acceptable way. There's a lot of settings in there that do not explain what they do, but it turns out hardware decoding is just broken and would normally make your streaming more efficient, but it, in this case, makes it big doo-doo. And this is a known issue apparently, but Valve hasn't said much on the issue. There's an HDR setting on the Steam Deck that you cannot turn off at all. So if you're like, why is the HDR on? I know I turned it off on my TV. Well, Steam Deck automatically turned it on. So I had to go in the settings of my TV and turn it back off. And like I said, it only reared its head when the Steam Deck was plugged in. You also actually want to limit your bandwidth and frame rate to levels your network can handle. If it's set higher than what your network can handle, it tends to work poorly.
I've had that issue with VR before, because for VR, I use I do it completely wirelessly. through a program called Virtual Desktop. And if you don't limit it and you go over what your network can handle, it just goes to shit.
Yeah. No, it went to crap. And you can only figure that out by toying with it because you've got so many different connections. You got to know what your computer can put out and accept what the Steam Deck can put out and accept what your router can put out and accept what your modem is doing. The wires in the wall, what they are capable of. You got to find your bottleneck. And you're not going to know that off the top of your head unless you actually installed it yourself. But I set it up to play Shadow of the Erdtree from the couch, and it worked pretty fine. And it's a comfy place we all share. Another thing I learned is the Steam Link app on your phone or smart TV is severely limited with wired speeds if you wire up the TV directly. That smart TV has better Wi-Fi speeds than wired speeds for some reason.
That's wild.
A wild and terrible truth.
It makes a certain sense, though, that they would put, because like most people don't have their smart TV wired in. So it makes a certain sense to me that the manufacturers like really prioritize Wi-Fi and just ignored Ethernet, even though they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a headache to figure out when I was figuring it out. It doesn't just work. And that's the thing about PC gaming and Steam. Sometimes roughly maybe 40% of the time, it just doesn't work. And you got to figure it out. And when it doesn't work, it's a headache.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely true. I give that warning to people that are considering gaming PCs. Like, look, the gaming PC is it's my preferred way to play. I love it. It's so versatile. It can do so many things. But you will run into a situation where something just breaks inexplicably, and you will be forced to scour Reddit to figure it out.
Yeah, you need a high tolerance for troubleshooting.
I would recommend modding Skyrim for practice.
Yeah. At least modding Skyrim when it works, you've got a quick turnaround for like once it clicks. Once you get a thing working, you can actually play around with it.
Right. That is the thing.
There's like a reward at the end.
Yeah, and the reward typically is just like, oh yes, it works as intended.
Yeah. Maiden Timeland said, but can gaming PCs docking? Weirdly enough, yes. You can actually get a docking station to get a dual docking station to set up a work computer and your gaming PC, so you don't have 8 monitor cables all over the place.
I also I've been really looking at a ROG, because while I do love my gaming PC, it is very tough to be comfortable and play it. And I got a friend that got a ROG, and it seems honestly pretty sick.
Yeah, the benefit of some of the other handhelds is they're not all running Valve's custom handheld firmware. They're just running Windows.
Michael Q says the reward is a brief respite until you add another mod in regards to Skyrim modding. Yes, or you foolishly update your mods and then are thrown into the pits of hell. But Captain, you've been playing something too. How about you tell us about it?
I have been playing so much Elden Ring. I played most of yesterday. I woke up late, got food, and then played Elden Ring for approximately 6 hours or plus. And I said foolishly over the weekend that I thought I was 2/3 of the way through the DLC. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I've been exploring so much. Every time I think I'm making some headway. I'm really I'm making some progress. Oh, here's a whole new zone.
It's a whole new zone.
This is not a complaint. It's so much. There is so much.
You know the is it cake things where it's like you could see a cake and then the cake's on a pedestal. The DLC is there's a cake on the pedestal, but the pedestal is cake also. The table, that's also cake. The floor, that's also cake. There's so much to find.
I've never played a DLC that I could say where it was this true that legitimately this could have been its own game. I genuinely believe that. This is at least
really could have.
Yeah. They did not have to do this $40 thing, which like I am thankful they did. That was cool as fuck of them. But this feels like it could have just been its own game and it would have been fine. I've had a blast with it. And I need to play around with my build more because I like sorcery, but sometimes I feel like I'm cheesing some parts too much. Walk into a room, and as long as I can keep some distance, just keep throwing comments at them. But yeah, it's been a good time. I've had a blast with it.
Hey, don't think you're doing cheap. Miyazaki said that even he's not great at playing his game, so he uses literally everything he can find.
Oh, yeah, it's almost like they put tools there to help you play it.
Oh, yeah. I'm going into rooms. I've got my summons ready. If a boss is giving me too much trouble and I think I got enough time, I'll still use the old is it Comet Azure? With the mixed physics, so I'm getting unlimited FP for a moment and increasing the potency of the spell, just so I can laser beam them down a decent amount while my summon distracts them. Like I'm doing cheese shit sometimes because it's rough out there. And I hate the twin blade fuckers. The twin blade knights can eat my ass. What if I attack for 10 whole seconds? Please do not.
It takes so long. Have you encountered a man in the road yet?
Is he screaming?
Yes.
Yeah, I encountered him. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. He just keeps screaming. He's not doing great.
Just keep adventuring. He's got a lot more dialogue.
Okay, because I just came across him and all he can do is talk about his pain and suffering.
Have you come across the most iconic line of the DLC yet?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I know a little bit more about what I think you guys are alluding to, but I haven't made it there. I just saw a thing about it. I accidentally, let me tell you, if you care about spoilers, it's bad out there. I was just scrolling. I was just on Instagram. Someone posted a story, and I finally beat him. Posted the picture of them, like the boss name with the health at 0. It's like, fuck! I didn't want to see that. You gave no warning.
Maiden Timelands says, wait, Elden Ring can be spoiled? My thoughts exactly. I don't know what the fuck is going on in that game.
Looks like you're not a lore head like me and Captain.
I do try to piece together what I can from what the game's telling me and from reading descriptions. They added a new feature that you should really turn on. Sorry, I got distracted during Maiden Timelands. I like when lore isn't just in-game books, which the way I see it is like, I've heard this described, it was on Castle Super Beast, as this has more story than Elden Ring, which is to say, not more lore. Or it was, there's a more of a story actively happening, but for me, it depends. Like, I enjoy my lore books. They're just things that I need the lore to inform what's happening in the story, but I'm okay with a decent amount being in the books, you know?
Now, look, if you're telling me story important information in an item description, I'm sorry, but I am simply not going to read that.
Elden Ring, that is a necessity. Destiny's better because most of the stuff they're telling you is not like, if it becomes story important, they'll reiterate. But if you care about the lore and you're reading the lore books, they'll give you a greater appreciation and understanding of what's happening, but you don't need it.
I'm just going to show up. I'm going to whoop a dude's ass. He's going to look cool as hell. And I'm going to say, wow, great story.
Wow. Don't fight uphill, Radon. Don't fight uphill.
They fought uphill. They lost.
Wow.
Well, that's our show. Thanks, everybody, for listening. For those listening live, go ahead and hit that follow button on Twitch. And for those that want to be listening live, you can catch Couch Dimension every Tuesday at 5:15 p.m. CDT. Captain, where can fans find our edited replays?
They can find them on YouTube along with exclusive content. They can also, or if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Which also I should add, you should do that on here as well. Well, maybe not the like, but yeah, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications here. Rick, could you tell us
Maiden
about our audio only
Timeland did
options?
say, I'm sorry, Maiden Timeland did say exclusive content. You say, yes, the feet pics are only on YouTube.
Just
Sorry,
pictures.
Captain.
We didn't upload videos.
Where'd you get my feed pics?
Wouldn't you like to know?
You can find us on podcast platforms Apple, Amazon, and Spotify by searching for Couch Dimension. If you're a podcast listener, please subscribe to the show so it can be downloaded to your device each and every week. And don't forget to rate the show and review us and let us know just how good of a job we're doing, because we are doing a good job. A 4.5 to 5-star job, to be specific. It's right there. It's right there on your phone. Just hit 4 stars. You know what? Do me a solid. Hit 5 stars. I'd love that. We'll be back next week with another great show because we are trapped here by a wizard. Did he turn the oven off? Did the wizard turn the oven off before we came here?
Oh, shit. I was wondering where all that smoke was coming from.